Alright, so carrying on from where we just were, I was working on the eyelids, which look very poor, but, you know, what are you going to do, right? So I'm just going to kind of get in closer there and try to... Am I on the draw? Yeah, okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to hold space bar, maybe weaken this a touch so it's not so extreme. Alright, so... Alright, a little more love there. Alright, so... Okay, so... Yeah, we're going to call that... Okay. Alright, so I'm not going to get too crazy because I don't want to take forever, but... see, it does need little things, though. Like little nostril holes, and... kind of cut this in a little. Then hold shift to kind of smooth it out on this side. Well, I could spend time on this, obviously, but time is something of the essence. So, you know, we'll do that, and then what I need to do is obviously make the eyeball. So maybe what I'll do is I will, I'm going to hold Control and tap, and then there's that. So I'm actually going to hold Control and click and drag, so I don't have it. And then I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to click kind of where I want the eyeball to be, which will say right here. Okay. All right. And good. And then I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control tap. So now that's the part that's open. And I'm actually going to kind of turn this to the side a little bit. I'm going to try using the grab here. And then make this a touch bigger. And I'm just going to kind of pull this out a little. That did not work very well. Alright, let's just try using the draw tool instead. Make this a bit bigger. And I'm just going to kind of pull that out. And then we'll make this a bit smaller, just to kind of make it roundish. Alright, I'm going to hold shift to smooth, to kind of smooth out the sides there so it's kind of round. Alright, and then I'm just going to hold Control, click and drag, and there we go. So there's kind of an eyeball. Alright, now to get details and stuff better, so you can see like this is kind of soft. For that, I usually, and there's other tools here too, like smooth, which if you just hold shift, the same thing. There's pinch, which is okay. Flatten, so if you want to make some, like you want to make a flat area, let's say I just want to flatten this. If I do that, you'll see it'll try to, I don't know if you can see it, but it tries to like flatten it, so it's good for like hard surface stuff. It's good for something. I don't really use it. The only other one I really use is this crease, so this is useful. So, and just be aware when you hit W, it shows you the wireframe. So you can see this isn't too awfully dense, right? But every time I draw a stroke, it creates more geometry. The crease tool in particular, like if you look at the draw tool, see how big that geometry is? Now watch, if I use the crease tool, you can see it's much more dense, okay? So just be aware when you draw in those creases that it is actually adding quite a bit of geometry. So this is going to get real heavy. So I'm actually going to go ahead and save this, Control-Shift-S, and I'm going to go ahead and save this right to, or you hit this little 3.5 floppy disk, which is kind of old at this point, and I'm just going to save this to my folder. Files, cone animal, and I'm just going to save it right here, and I'm just going to call it cone sloth _ V01, but first version, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start just detailing out this eyeball, so there's a little more in here to work with, okay? So I'm going to hold space bar, make this a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to kind of draw roughly like the inside of the eye there, and I'll kind of draw here as well, okay? And then I can put some crease into this eyelid here, alright? You can see this is where all the detail comes in. This is the fun part once you get kind of the rest of it all looking okay. Alright, so this is the part that's, you know, where you get to kind of play, because once you got that base down and it looks good, you know, this is just, it's like shading if you're doing, you know, if you were doing a drawing. It's kind of the same idea as that, where like, you know, the shading's not going to save your picture, but when you get to that point, you're all happy because you're like, oh, it looks good. So, same basic idea. That's not what their nose looks like. I kind of don't care right now. It's a little bit of a fat nose, so we're going to kind of squish that in. All right, and then pull this part out a little. Kind of get down there. There we go. All right. Okay, so let's go back to the crease tool. Okay, so I can use the crease tool and I can kind of try to, you know, develop some things. Now, it would And we're going to do this mouth here too. Alright, so you can kind of see how that goes. Alright. And then do draw. But make sure you don't get too crazy with it. I'm going to go inwards, not outwards. Because it will, bring that outwards. It will get really heavy. So for instance, if you actually look at a sloth, what you'll notice is that there's actually quite a bit of I mean, there's fur, right? Now I could use this crease tool and try to like draw fur in here. But it will get really super dense after a while. So I'm going to do kind of a little bit of that, but I'm not going to like make it really small like this and draw like individual hairs like that. I mean, if I hit W, you'll see that's going to get super dense. Okay, but you see this one I did was not that bad. So, you know, try not to do that in the beginning if you can help it, because you're going to make your thing just horrendous to work with, and it will bog down and you won't be able to do any of the other stuff. So I'm just going to kind of do a little bit to make it look like hair or whatever, you know, just things that like kind of affect the contour here. But I'm not going to get crazy with it, because otherwise it will be bad. So just a little bit. All right, so that doesn't look that great, but you get kind of the idea. All right, so we're going to call that good. I'm not going to go through the whole body, but you kind of do the whole body sort of like that. All right. And that is good on, let me see if there's anything else I want to tell you about the sculpting. So if you do run into an area where you're getting like this weird, like let's say I did that and I'm trying to smooth it out and I hit smooth and it's just not smoothing out. Well, what happens is that sometimes when you sculpt, it adds geometry. Let me make this a little more, let me make this smaller so it looks worse. I might do something like this, right? And I'm like, ugh, it doesn't look good. So I'll hit smooth and I'll try to smooth it out. And like no matter what I do, I don't know if you can see it, but it's just imperfections there, right? Like there's these little knots almost. What happens is that when I did it, it drew all this geometry in here, and it's not the same as what's around it, so it's creating detail where I didn't want it. What you could do is use this, you can reduce the entire thing by clicking on this, and that will reduce the entire model, which you might need to do once it gets bogged down. But if you want to just reduce a specific thing, you can hit on this reduce brush, and then, let me undo that last reduce. I can click in here, and it will actually reduce that chunk, and then when you hit smooth again, it will actually smooth it out. Okay, so you might need to use the brush of reduce at times to try and like get back what you want. All right, we're gonna say that's good. So what I would tell you to do is save it before you do this next step. Hit W to bring that back on. It's also this here's wireframe, and if you need a mask, instead of holding Control, you can just click this or hit M. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is actually just go ahead and paint this. Okay, so to paint it, make sure you save it first, because sometimes it gets kind of bogged down, and you might want to click reduce. If it's really, really dense, you're going to want to hit reduce selected a bunch of times. Otherwise, it'll take forever to unwrap. It might not even unwrap at all. So if it's really, really dense, it will not unwrap. But I'm going to go ahead and click paint, and then go ahead and go to 1024 and hit OK. And then it's going to do its best. Now, as long as it's not too awful bad, and mine's not, it shouldn't take too long. I'm going to go ahead and pause this for a second. All right, so when it's done, what you'll see is this. And see how it's checkers? That means there's no color on it. So you want to do first is just fill the entire character, and the easiest way to do that, so you click on this. This is the foreground color. Find a color that you think represents roughly what it is. So this is obviously the hue, and this is saturation. So if you go this way, it'll make it less saturated. So they're generally not very saturated. And then I'll hit OK. And then once I'm done with that, I'm just going to go ahead and hit fill. And that will fill the entire character. Now notice that I can still see a little bit. That means it didn't fill all the way. And the reason why is if I hit spacebar, you'll see my strength is middle. That means that like just like the strength of the stroke, this will be the strength of how much colors. If I go all the way, it'll be 100%. And now when I hit fill, it'll fill at 100%. Okay. So once I'm done with that, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and paint. Okay. So just make sure you got this paint in here. Hang on one second. Okay. So, you know, the face has a certain kind of painting here. So I'm just going to click on this, and then I'll be like, okay, so it needs to be kind of this darker brown color. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and take the strength, because I like the strength to be a little bit weaker, like that. And then I'm just going to, you know, take the strength up a little bit. It's a little too weak. Paint that in there, okay? Make sure it's working. There we go, okay. Bring that back again, okay. And then I'll just paint this in here, okay? So you just kind of, you know, go around the figure and paint it the best you can and try to make it look nice and so on and so forth, okay? Like so, blah, 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 blah. I think you get the idea. It's pretty straightforward. All Alright, so try to do base colors first as much as possible, and then build up colors on top of it. So this is generally that color, and then there's this sort of like lighter color. This needs to be a little more desaturated, kind of like that. That's kind of in here, okay, around his eyes and stuff. Alright, and around his muzzle, a little bit there, and then around down here. And then there's like a blackish color, close to black, like right where his eyes are, and there, and then on here it's black, and there it's kind of black, and then right where his mouth is. Okay, so that kind of thing. Do a good job. Don't do a terrible job like I'm doing, but do the best you can. And it's black around here. Well, you get the idea. Okay, so that looks like that, and I'll try to do a nice job. Now, you can do too is if you click on well, if you click on this bump map, you can do this bump map thing, which I'm not a huge fan of, but you can try it. And basically what it'll do is that if you choose white, okay, so we'll just completely desaturate this. What it'll do is that it will fake, it doesn't actually affect the surface, but it makes it look like it does, okay? So that's useful because what I can do is that although like it would create, you know, trying to model the hairs would be really high res, this is just using pixels. So I can kind of draw my shapes without, and like I said, it's not actually making the geometry, it's just doing that one thing. So if I wanted to like make this look more like hair, I can do that. Kind of go like this, okay? Like so. And, you know, try to get more. So if you really want to have like a texture in there, which you might, you can use that bump map to the best of your ability, okay? So you can kind of see that's doing that. And now if I wanted to have like a different texture in there, let's see, do I have anything in here? There's nothing in here. Okay, cancel. You can click on one of these, I can enable it and then find a picture and then use that as my texture, but I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so we're going to say that looks good and I'm happy and I did the whole thing and it looked nice, okay? Just you picture it in your mind. So to actually save this as an image, so first you'd want to save it just like you normally would, all right? And I'm just going to save it as my next version, so we're going to call it 2, all right, V02. What I'd want to do is to take a picture of it. So, oh, also make sure when you paint, you actually can't go back to modeling. So once you start painting, that's it. I'm just going to click on Options, and then I'll hit Save Image, okay? Actually, cancel. See if I want to change anything. If you want to change the background at all, let's see if I want to change any of these settings real quick. And I'll just say save image. Actually, before I do that, you want to like get this. It's going to take, basically it's going to screen capture what's inside this box here. So make sure it's like full size as much as you want it to be. Then go ahead and go Options, Save Image. And I just want you to save the image, and let's call this, you know, cone sloth image. And then I'll hit Save. Alright, so it'll say like rendering and it will do whatever, and then you just hit OK or whatever. Now, if you actually open up your folder, you'll see that, so on that one, it will have made your image, and it's basically, which it went over there, hang on a second. It basically just takes a screen capture, and that's what I want. I want you to hand in this, hand in your model, and hand in your reference images. And that's basically it, okay? So the program has a little more that it can do than what I'm showing you, but this is the bulk of it. So just have fun, you know, try to make something cool. All right, good luck.